What was the biggest lie from Tiger King? You know, the one thing that the documentary really got wrong.
You know, I'm going to try something on you because everybody asked me that. So my guess is that the reason that you guys are wanting to talk to me is because you watched Tiger King and either you or your viewers or your fan base came away believing that I killed my husband and stole money from his family. So for you, what was the one thing in Tiger King that indicted me? And then that gives me the opportunity to give you the answer you need for whatever it is that made you think that.
Well, the funny part is when I think of Tiger King, I just think the whole thing was so wild and unlike any television that I've ever watched. I didn't walk away personally going, yes, she killed the husband or anything like that. I just was like, what is happening? We've got like so many characters all over the place. We've had a couple of, this, I want to say stars, but the focal points of the show on our podcast. And I think, I just think it's interesting to talk to people. In regards to indicting you, I don't know. Adam,
What was
what
it
did
that
you
made
think?
people think that? Because clearly people
Well, I
think
mean, I think the way they laid out the storyline, you know, they were very much insinuating, but again, I come from a TV background and you're making a TV juicy, you're enticing people to watch the show more than anything.
Yeah, I remember the episode that they kind of focused on you. I feel like each episode kind of focused on some person. The episode they focused on you, it just made you spin a little bit. And, again, I'm just going as a viewer perspective. It was like, okay, Joe's the bad person. Then again, they kind of made you seem like the bad person. And then they made you question, did she kill her husband? And then you talk to the family. So it was just these personalities, but the storyline of what's going on in the South, which is someplace that I think a lot of people forget about. So it was just, I never thought it was like, oh my God, Carole Baskin definitely killed her husband. But it was just like a wild turn of events from every person, from Joe to you to what was going on at,
Jeff Lowe to,
yeah,
I
Jeff
mean,
Lowe.
everyone,
It was
like every
just
character was just, I mean,
wild.
you couldn't write half these people in a script. I think that's what made them so interesting. I mean, you included. Like you are a fascinating person, and so that's why
In
we
a good
want to
way.
talk to you. So that's really what it comes down to for us.
well, this was totally unhelpful because I was really
I know.
thinking
I know.
if I just ask people, what is it that made you think that in the first place, then I could dispel that. So, kind of like you said, there were so many things that made this just crazy all over the place. But if you were to look at just the things in episode 3 where they were trying to assassinate my character, the as far as answering your questions are what are
Lies.
the biggest lies that were told. I think the biggest lie that was told is that I married a millionaire, killed him, and took his money from his family. When I met Don Lewis, he told me his name was Bob Martin and that he was working as this kid that drove, well, kid, he was 40 years old, but he was driving vehicles around on a lot for this guy named Don Lewis. And so I thought he was penniless. And I fell in love with this Bob Martin for like 3 years before I found out that he was Don Lewis, not Bob Martin. And even when I found out who he was, he had $113,000 worth of property. That was it. He what he did for a living, what the real Don Lewis did for a living, was he cut the axles off of trucks, like these big 40-foot
Yeah.
tractor trailers. He'd cut the axles off, sell the axles back to the company. I think it was Great Dane he was dealing with at the time. And then he'd get the boxes as his payment for what he did. And he'd sell those storage boxes for like $500. So that's what he was doing when I met him. And he could read at like a first grade level. I'm the person who built our real estate business up into a multi-million-dollar business. And when we got married, we didn't get, they made it sound like I broke up his family. His wife said he had 24 girlfriends in Tiger King, which was a surprise to me. I knew he had some, but I had no idea he had that many. But we had this kind of weird relationship through our entire time together. And the reason was he kept telling me at different times that he and his wife were trying to patch things up. And so we would split up. We were still working together, but we wouldn't be sexual. And what I found out later is he was just having different affairs with different women. He was never trying to work things out with his wife. And then after 11 years, she was just sick of that. And she fell in love with a guy at her church and she wanted to marry him. And she said she wanted $1 million to just, have a quick divorce and be out of there. And it was worth it to me for her to get $1 million of the money that we had earned in order to do that. I thought that was fair. They had all of that. Nobody saw any of that in Tiger King because that didn't fit the narrative. That didn't give Joe his righteous indignation at saying all of the horrible things that he said about me. It would have just made him look like the kind of person that he really was, which was not the narrative they were selling.
So bottom line, Carole, you did not, or did you kill your husband with all that?
I did not kill my husband. I was the only person trying to protect my husband.